Hello and welcome. In this video tutorial, we will be looking at how to create a scenes-based movie in PyMOL 3. By the end of this tutorial, you'll be able to save, view and update scenes in PyMOL, add scenes to the timeline to create a movie, and make some basic edits to scenes-based movies. Let's get started. We're going to begin by fetching a structure from the protein data bank. We're going to use 1BUW here, which has 2 alpha chains and 2 beta chains, and these 4 subunits are a nice example of a tetrameric structure. You may recognize this protein from an earlier tutorial. We can see that each chain contains a ring-like heme group containing an iron atom because yes, this is hemoglobin. This particular structure has nitric oxide reversibly bound to the heme groups, and there's a really great PDB 101 Molecule of the Month article where you can learn more about how this protein is involved in transport of oxygen and other gases in our bloodstreams. We've touched upon how to save scenes in previous video tutorials, for example when saving views for image creation, and we've seen how to use Maestro's Center PyMOL feature to easily create a simple scenes-based movie to tell a scientific story. But now we're going to look at how to add scenes to the timeline directly within PyMOL. Let's start by opening the Scenes panel and zooming to Visible so that we can see the entire 1BUW structure. Click on the plus to save this scene. This has been saved as Scene 001 by default, though you can rename your saved scenes via the ellipsis menu below the scene if desired. Next, let's use Color by Chain to show off the fact that this is a tetrameric structure and save a second scene. We can also use scene, name, store in the command input area to save scenes. And you can check out the PyMOL command reference for more guidance here. But one of the really nice features in PyMOL 3 is that it's really easy to save, view, edit and delete scenes via the user interface with this new Scenes panel. We can even add a description or message for our scenes, which will be displayed in the upper left corner of the workspace. We're going to create another scene to focus on just one unit of this 4-chain structure. Let's extract chain A to a new object by typing extract 1BUW_A, chain A, and we can see that this has created a new object in the Contents panel called 1BUW_A. Hide the original 1BUW object and save a scene with only the 1BUW_A object displayed in the workspace. Before we add any more scenes, let's take a look at how these scenes might work in a movie. We can see how they interpolate just by clicking through them in the Scenes panel. Looking back at the first and second scene we saved, we can see that they're now missing chain A. Scenes are effectively object-specific saved views, so the fact that we've extracted the A chain out is reflected here. Not to worry though, the new object is grayed out in the Contents panel, so we can simply click to enable it, and then click on the ellipsis menu below the scene and choose Update to save the modified version of this scene. Great! On a similar note, it is worth being aware here that scenes do not save global settings per scene. For example, if we were to show spheres for our heme group here and use Settings, Transparency, Sphere 50%, we can see that this setting has also been applied to the nitric oxide molecule because this is also displayed as spheres, and this 50% transparency has been applied across all of our scenes. We will be covering how to do settings transitions when we look at more advanced timeline features in later videos, so stay tuned for that. Now that our scenes are looking good, and we have a nice beginning to a story here, let's start building our movie storyline in the timeline. Click on the timeline icon in the toggle toolbar below the Contents panel to open the timeline. There are a few ways to add things to the timeline to start building a movie or animation, but let's begin by selecting our first scene and using the Add to Timeline button at the bottom of the Scenes panel. We can see a keyframe has been added to the camera track of our timeline composition. We can see that this is currently at second 0 of our 5-second timeline. Let's move the playhead to the 1-second marker, click on our second scene, and use the Add to Timeline button to add a keyframe for our second scene. Repeat this process for the third scene at the 3rd-second time point. Now that we have a few scenes on the timeline, ensure that the playhead is back at the start and click play to see how this looks. The default interpolation between the scenes is linear, so the amount of motion that is taking place to move from one scene to another will depend on the workspace view or camera position for each of your saved scenes. I'm going to go back to my second scene and edit the view a little here. Then choose Update from the ellipsis menu to save the updated view. Let's delete the second scene from the timeline by right-clicking on the keyframe marker to open the keyframe menu, and now re-add it using the updated scene. We can see that there is a lot more motion between these scenes now. Nice! We could stop here, but let's create a couple more scenes to make this movie a little more interesting. Let's say we wanted to look at the polar interactions which give this protein its secondary structure. Next to the 1BUW_A object, we can do Action, Find Polar Contacts within Selection. I'm going to show wire and hide the cartoon so we can see all of the polar interactions that create these nice alpha helices. Save this scene and add it to the timeline. When I saved that 4th scene, I didn't move the structure much, whereas the view varies a lot more in some of the earlier scenes. We could update our scenes, but we can also drag the keyframes around to alter the amount of time it takes to transition from one scene to the next. Let's move things around a bit here so the amount of motion between the keyframes feels a bit smoother and less rushed. Let's create one more scene, highlighting just the heme group. Heme is composed of a porphyrin ring which contains an iron atom at its centre. This is where oxygen usually binds in order for it to be transported, and this specific structure demonstrates how heme can transport other gases, and in this case nitric oxide. I'm going to hide the wire representation of our 1BUW_A selection and toggle off the polar contacts so they're undisplayed in the workspace, and zoom in on the heme group and the nitric oxide. Save another scene and add this to the timeline. If by adding this 5th scene we get to the end of the default 5 seconds on the timeline, we can easily extend the time using the Edit button. We can also rename our composition here. I'm going to call this 1BUW scenes and create an 8-second movie, as I think this will give us enough time between the scenes. Looking at this animation so far, I'm thinking that we might want to add a little bit more motion to make things look nicer here, and to make the story flow a little better. Rather than creating more scenes, we can add a single scene to the timeline multiple times. So I'm going to double up on some of the existing scenes. I'm going to add in one new scene with a rotated view of the heme to show off the nitric oxide as well. Have a go at making some edits, update the scene's views, and move the keyframes as needed. Don't forget you can easily delete scenes from the timeline by right-clicking on the keyframe and choosing Delete, and you can also remove a scene by selecting the keyframe in question and using your keyboard's Delete key. You can probably tell that I'm setting up my scenes here so the movie will play smoothly in a continuous loop, and I think that's looking much better. We covered the basics of exporting movies in the previous tutorial, so I'm just going to do this really quickly here. Remember, it's good practice to render in draw mode first, to check everything is looking good, as ray tracing can take a long time. I'm going to use 1920 width and 1080 height here, so this is a little higher resolution than the common 720 option, but not as big as my monitor. And I'm using the FFmpeg encoder, which you may need to follow the install instructions for if you've not used it before, and the MP4 output. And now this is rendering. Here's how the exported movie looks, and that brings us to the end of this tutorial. You can now save, view, and modify scenes in PyMOL 3, add scenes to the timeline to create a movie, and make some basic edits to scenes-based movies. Thanks for watching.